Hi, I'm Anna Brewster. Welcome to Art Club for December. This month we are going to be making a wreath like this. This is a collage project today, and we're going to be using sponges and paint to make the collage elements for our wreath. So let's get stuck in. So first things first, we need a circle to make our wreath out of, and what I've got here is just a saucer. It depends entirely what size wreath you want to make, but I'm going fairly large so you can see what I'm doing. If you were making one of these to go on a card, for example, you might want to go a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to draw around very, very lightly, just with a pencil here, just really, really lightly, so you can hardly see it, but I've got a guideline now to work within, which is going to mean that I don't then go off at all sorts of strange angles and make the whole thing look very, very weird. I have got some very, very rough paints here. These are not good quality. You know, if something this size is £2 a tube, it's going to be a bit ropey, but to be quite honest, if you're doing something like this, this is absolutely perfect. And I do use these for a lot of things in the studio. I have posh paints that I use for making pictures. We are going to need red, blue, yellow and black. You could use gouache if you have gouache about. You could use watercolour paint if you have that. You could use poster paint. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to put some little plops of paint out here. So we've got our yellow. The reason why these are cheap is they won't be as full of pigment as a good make such as Sennelier or one of the other ones that I use quite a lot, Winsor & Newton maybe. These are a bit chalkier, they're not quite as strong, so you'd have to use a lot more to get the same sort of depth of colour. However, for what we're doing, it really doesn't matter. So really go into your kids' room, nick all their paints, it's all good. I've got here a sponge. This was sold as an artist sponge, but you can quite clearly see that you could just as easily use any sort of kitchen sponge, bath sponge, anything you've got lying about that's outlived its previous purpose is absolutely fine. Bits of packaging material, actually, that's what I like to use for things like this. And we're going to make some brown. And to make brown, you are going to want a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red, and a little bit of black. And that will give you quite a nice strong brown. If you're using gouache or whatever, you've got a brown, use that instead, it makes life easier. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make brown and I'm going to start patting that on, trying to get a lot of interesting texture, twisting, turning, and then adding in little bits of colour, almost like making side puddles of other colour. So we'll have a little bit more, some lighter brown going on here. We'll have another puddle of colour over here with a bit darker. And you want to just keep this really free and easy. You're trying to create the impression that somebody has made this out of moss. You could do it in green, that would also be quite fun. I'm going for brown today. And you might find initially it doesn't look quite as round as you'd want. That's fine. I'm going to bulk mine out a little bit anyway because I want plenty of space to put my berries on. So you can see how I'm twisting it and turning it because my sponge is quite square, and what I don't want is a load of square blocky bits. I want interesting texture, and this is what this is all about. When we make sponge prints, we can get really interesting textures going on. Of course, you could use things other than a sponge, so it might be worth having a bit of a play before you get going to see what you've got in the house that might give you even more interesting things, more interesting marks. I'd say that's about there really. I can't really lift this up because I've got a great big piece of acrylic here which I've mixed my paints on, But what we've got here is a load of different browns that are all working together. It looks quite natural, it looks quite nice. That's probably, I'm going to keep fiddling now I've said that. No, I think that is probably it. A bit sort of fluffy around the edges. You can always make it, just put it on really lightly around the edges, just to add a kind of a bit of fluff around the edge. There we go. It looks like that stuff you get from florists, doesn't it? You know, when you want to make a wreath yourself. Lots of little twigs bound together. Okay, so I'm going to park that there, and I'm going to let that dry, because that's the most important thing. We don't want to do anything else with that till it's dry. While it is drying, I'm going to show you what we do with the rest of the paint. So this is going to require a little bit of a rejig at this point. Not least so I don't get paint in my coffee, which I am drinking at the same time. So I'm going to use the other half of the paper. This bit. This is a very big sheet of paper, I should point out. It's absolutely enormous, so it's A2. So I've got this great big area here at the side, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to start putting some colour on it. Now, this is going to require me to wash the sponge or use the other half of the sponge. I don't want to use that bit because it's got brown all over it. So what I'm going to do is I'll use the other half, but equally I could wash it. And I've got my colours just here. So what I'm going to do, can I get these on? I can, excellent. I'm going to start making some wonderful areas of colour, and I'm going to do that by mixing up here. And I'm going to put this over here because I'm going to be cutting bits out of this. So what I want to do is create a big area of colour, about the size, think a sheet of A4. I'm using the reds and the yellows together, making bright fiery oranges, really vibrant colours here. You don't need to fill every single little gap. We'll have some red bits over here. Lovely, bright, warm colours, and I think we all need a bit of that at the moment. Get some yellow going on, and you can see you get this really interesting texture happening, and this is going to make our picture much more interesting to look at than if we just painted it. A bit more red. Okay, that's quite funky. Now I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here. We'll have some green, a bit of blue. That's what the blue was for. Oh no, not the red. Everything's covered in filth now. Inevitable really with me around. Let's get some green going on. There we go. Running out of sponge. I could go and get another sponge, but then I'd have to stop the video, and then I'd have to work out how to splice it all together. And it is fair to say that I'm still working on my video editing skills. Okay, here we go. So now I've got about the size of a sheet of A4 now. I've got greens, I've got reds, you could do purples. It's really up to you. Should we have some purple? No, I'm not in a purple mood today. We won't have purple, but we will have, I'll use up the rest of the green. Now, at this point, it is really important to point out something very, very fundamental about this paint. Acrylic paint is, by its very nature, plastic. So I don't use it a whole lot now. And when you do use it, for goodness sake, if you're using acrylics, don't wash it down the sink. You will block your drains up and obviously unleash a bazillion microplastic horror fragments into the environment. So don't do that. What I do is I wipe of it. I'll use it to paint collage as much as I can. So this is collage papers. You could paint a whole lot and then you can use them for all sorts of things. But also I will wipe the rest off and make sure it goes straight into a bin. Also not ideal, but significantly better than it, and adding it to the waterways. So we're going to have a bit of a clear up now. We're going to let all of that dry, and then we shall start working on our collage. Okay, so I've got I've done a Blue Peter on this. I've got a second piece of collage that I made just so I can speed up showing you how this works. This is now bone dry, which is how we want it. And you can see close up on this one that we've got all these lovely textures here. All sorts of interesting things going on. And this is what we're going to be making our berries out of, because berries, merry berries, this is what this is all about. Now, you know, how many are we going to cut out? Probably quite a lot. So this can take a little while, but I have found a few ways of speeding it up. What I tend to do fold it. Question is how good are your scissors and how many can you get through in one go? And then I've been using coins to actually make the shape that I want. And you want to do berries here, so anything round, anything small and round that you can cut out, that's perfect. That's what you need. And then you just very carefully keep a hold on it if you're doing more than one layer at once. But to be honest, otherwise you will be there for quite a while, because you do want a lot of berries for this. If you've got any other round objects other than coins, there may be other things that are equally good to use, but these are quite nice. And as you can see now, oops, just need to take that one apart. I've got these nice little collage pieces, and every single one is going to be a little bit different. Look, there's a green one, there's two stuck together again, all sorts of different colours. And then I can try a different shape. Let's do a really small one. So my smallest coin is a 5p, so I'll put that there, and I'll just fold it, and fold it, fold it. These are quite good scissors, it does help. You could use a craft knife, cut it out like that, but just mind your fingers, obviously. Okay, let's see if I can cut through that. That's quite a lot. Draw it on. I've gone for coins because basically everybody's got a handful of small change lying about somewhere, haven't they? So that's quite an easy thing to draw around. Oh, there's a lot of dog-related excitement happening outside. I don't know if you can hear that going on in the background. The river's quite high at the moment. I think people are trying to prevent their animals jumping in the river. Right, okay, little ones. You can see here, lots of lovely little colours. And so you can go on like this, cutting out any size you like, really. Bear in mind the overall size of what you're working on. So obviously if you're working on a little tiny wreath, you want much smaller dots. If you're working on a very big wreath, go large. If you want really, really small dots, then I've got something else you could use, which I will show you. So this is a hole puncher, and if I do you could use just a double. And this is really nice. If you're making a very small card, this would be gorgeous. You can hear me above the hole punching now, who knows? Okay, so these are all stored in the bottom of the hole puncher. So when I do that, I get a whole load of micro dots, and these are going to be really nice as well. So now I've got a variety of sizes. What I'm going to do, I'll make a few more, and then I'll show you what to do with them all. Okie dokie, so everything is now dry. Everything that needed to be cut out has been cut out, and as you can see, I've got a whole range of sizes and shapes of little berries. Now, if you were feeling super crafty, there is nothing to stop you cutting out some leaves. You could have done some green if you wanted to, just a thought. I'm keeping it really simple today because berries are lovely and cheerful and jolly, and I'm going to enjoy sticking these on. The A4 paper that I've done should be enough to make a fairly good display on this, and I've just got a glue stick. It's nothing particularly fancy. You could use PVA glue if you wanted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sticking these on. And this is where it gets fun because I can decide how I want to do this. So I'm going to overlap some of them maybe a little bit. Put them in little groups. Maybe 3 there, maybe some smaller ones. I might have a little sprig of green ones over here. That got 2 stuck to it? It has. And it might look a bit funny at first, but I assure you before too long, it will start coming together and you'll be like, ah, yes, this is where I want to put them. The bigger ones are easier to stick. The small ones, I know these are going to be a nightmare, but there, so you can do them. If you just pick them up, whoops, I've got two there. If you just pick them up and wipe them across the glue stick. Just put that one there, and then they will stay put. So what I'm going to do is keep putting these on, and I might speed it up a little bit so you can watch me doing it. And we'll see how we get on. And there we go. Okay, so that's about it for December, and I hope you've had fun, maybe painted along, or you're going to go off and do the project in a minute. Hopefully you'll sort of something like this. I'd really love to see what you do make at home. So if you do join in with this project, do drop me a line and let me know how you get on. I am Sidmouth Skies on Instagram, and I am Anna Brewster Art on Facebook. See you in January.